Alright, so welcome back into another Dragon Ball Super card game video, and today I want to talk about collectors, and it's something that I wanted to talk about for a while, but I haven't really been making content. But it's something that ever so often it keeps getting brought up, and as well as the pricing of Dragon Ball as it stands today. And before I start, of course, definitely subscribe if you're new, and in the comments below, let me know, do you think that Dragon Ball is being ruined by collectors? Do you think it's too expensive? And do you think it is because of collectors? Let me know in the comments below. And honestly, for me, the short answer is kind of. Long answer, not really. Honestly, I think it started with Pokemon and other card games. You know, Pokemon kind of blew up because of YouTubers and influencers and things like that, just buying out type of the older sets and those type of things, and looking for the next Charizard. Everybody kind of wants the next Charizard, the next rare card that would make them thousands of dollars, that type of thing. And honestly, I think it's ending up to be Awakened Power, you know, being short print, being Goku, being like the main sort of thing that DBS is about, which is Ultra Instinct Goku, which is the mastered Ultra Instinct Goku. Not only that, it was also printed with Victory Strike, which means you win the game when you do damage, and of course Apex has that too, but Awakened Power is the next best thing, I think. I've done plenty of videos like this or about this. I've done where I talk about future value and talk about specific types of cards like stamp cards, SPRs, things like that. I've also done a video with Cam about buyouts and kind of broke that down and, you know, not to freak out. And of course, I've done a video on Awakened Power, how it was $10,000 and someone bought it for $10,000, which honestly is not even that uncommon anymore. It is actually just a possibility depending on the grading. I think the purpose of these videos is to kind of look back, you know, having the ability to look back and to see what the understanding is or the mentality was, where the prices were, etc., and kind of compare it to today. But first, let me go ahead and break down why I think collectors aren't necessarily ruining the game directly. And I think it breaks down to a few different things. The first one is being the unknown, the second one being our complacency, and the third one is being distribution and as well as supply. Let's start with the unknown. We actually don't really know who is buying what group, who it is, if it's one person, etc. It could be even like random people watching a stream and just buying things out because they think a play or a deck or whatever it may be is really good. But even if we knew, what difference would it really make, right? I don't think it would make any difference because, it doesn't really make too much difference if you know who it is. And that's kind of why blaming collectors directly isn't really, doesn't really make too much sense. Let's talk about the targeted cards. So while we don't really know who's doing it, we kind of know what's being bought out. One Facebook group that you should know and love is DBS Bets, or our DBS Bets, which is technically a spin-off of Wall Street Bets, which, if you didn't know, long story short, it's a bunch of idiots trying to YOLO their money into the stock market to get rich, which I'm one of those idiots, so I would know. And it also shows posts of what's being bought out on the regular. So I mean, if you ever wanted to see, you can always join the group, take a look, post what you want to post, right? Now, the next thing is probably going to be the secret rares, and I've talked about this in a previous video, or at least a future value video. You can always take a look at that on my channel, or I'll put one in the link below, or a link in the description below. And of course, Awakened Power being at $3,100 for something, $3,200. I mean, like a few months ago, this was like $700. Honestly, like last year was probably around like hovering that $200, $300 range. So it's honestly crazy, just like the stock market. If you've been paying attention to that kind of stuff, you buy low, you buy low, you sell high, and this is kind of where it is right now. Apex Power, same thing. People were paying like $200 last year, and now it's $1,800 at the lowest, and the market price being $1,000, $1,800, etc. Right? You want to see. It comes down to, what it kind of makes sense. For secret rares, they're lower in print. You usually get one per case, which is 24 boxes or so, or 12 boxes. And maybe not the most recent set that just came out in as well as World Tournament, but still, most of the time when you go look through all of these SCRs, most of them are pretty high in price because they're low in print and also very playable, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And if you notice, some of the Goku cards and as well as the Vegito cards are a little bit more expensive because he is the main character. There are the main characters as the most recognizable, as their fan favorites, and usually for collectors, that is kind of like the thing to get, right? You want the most recognizable, you want the low print, you want the things that people will want in the future and will kind of gain value as time goes on, especially since DBS is not only a very popular show, but it tags on nostalgia and things like that. Then we also have things like stamped cards, which you have to understand. Things like the winter stamped, those are those really make sense. The winter stamped, the finals, the first place, second place, etc. Those I understand why they should be really high. Like the rebrand, the denial of hope, etc. But some of these other ones are really speculative, as in like the Goku hot stamped one, which supposedly got, sent out quite a lot to promote the game. But also some of these other ones, like the gold stamped has risen in value, the gold stamped Goku, etc. So some of these have gotten really, really high as far as the value for itself comparative to like last year or something like that, right? Same thing for leaders. Leaders are really hard to kind of get, because they're not really distributed like regular print cards and commons, uncommons, super rares, etc. Since they're pre-release, you have to be there to actually have them, etc. And some of these other gold stamped ones from the draft boxes and things like that. Do these make sense as far as the current value and the price increases? Kind of. They're still rare, they're stamped for a reason. I think maybe not like in the hundreds of dollars range, but maybe in like the 2-digit range makes a little bit more sense for stamp cards. Anyway, what about our complacency, right? And what I mean by that is, I think those who have been around since set 1, 2, 3, etc. Have gotten used to prices being affordable. And I think for most new games, except for ones maybe starting in COVID, like Digimon, that's probably the case. There's not really a market for these cards to even have value, right? And especially for the earlier sets that had a lot of print. Now it's kind of reversed, because now the earlier sets are like alpha sets or things that really started the game, like set 1 and set 2. And now those are really out of print and really hard to get. And that's why all the boxes are a lot higher, because people are recognizing that. So take this post for example. A father and his son enjoys DBS, and this is about a year ago, but after Draft Box 4 and some other sets is kind of becoming a little harder and harder to stay in the game and making it affordable, right? I'm not really faulting them to about not buying things in advance and expecting things to be expensive, but I am kind of showing that this is one of the effects that a game that is getting a little bit more expensive as sets go has. I think that at the end of it, everyone is now realizing the pros and cons of this game and the IP. From the nostalgia to the great art, the great playable game overall, are now all kind of catching up to its own value. And the last thing is going to be the distribution and as well as the supply. And those are going to be the biggest things to really factor and consider in. If you haven't really paid much attention, supply and the short printing of sets have really started around about like set 8, set 9, around there. And I don't think it's really going to get any better with COVID doing its delays, and as well as just Bandai just being safe. That's the thing. If you print too much, people don't buy it, or even they don't buy enough, then for distributors and as well as stores, etc., and then goes to players, they're not going to get as much as they had before. And then when it's gone, right? It kind of becomes a simple to understand issue, right? If there's not enough supply to go around, and people want to collect instead of play or to sell the rarer cards, then the demand to do so and to play competitively with those cards, all of that, the prices kind of go up and they increase. Of course, this is because some people wanted to keep the cards and collect. Others really wanted to play instead. And when there's not enough supply, there's not enough actual cards or at least availability to go around, then it kind of becomes hard to build really any deck that you want, or at least to collect anything you want. Now, I've talked about a lot of stuff, but what about solutions? I think the first thing to really solve the pricing issues, and people sometimes hate this, but it's got to be reprints. Battle Evolution is, you know, probably a really big step in the right direction when it comes to, you know, having purposeful and useful reprints like Rebrand and Basil and etc. Things that we can actually use on a competitive basis, or at least just playing basis. I think going forward, if they handle it right, you know, they should continue to do so, and having less impactful and purposeful cards like reprinting Champa for the 30th time, or really any other card that doesn't have recent support or recent play, as in like the last 6 to 7 months, is super important as well. Now, the second solution is more people within the market. And what I mean by that is because most people get prices from TCG Player, and I don't think people realize, or some don't realize, that these shops are just regular people selling cards. At least a lot of them are. When things are bought out, it just means that the available sellers for a certain card are no longer available or no longer selling them. If we had more sellers, then the listings would be a little bit different, especially if they had it on the lower end, and it would be a completely different story. As we have more and more people selling at different prices. The more available cards that we have, then the more supply we have, and the more affordable pricing that we should have. As long as everybody's selling at an affordable price, that's going to be the issue. Regardless, if you took anything from this video, people want cards. People buy cards. People angry because cards are expensive. Anyway, before we end the video, let's go ahead and open another vicious rejuvenation pack. I'm just never gonna say it right. All right, first we have Reddit's Invader from Afar, Nova Shenron, Hoa, Frieza, the Tree of Might, Amand, Janemba, Salsa, Cutting Edge Recovery Device, PyCon, Achu, and then our rare is gonna be the Go Hanks. Okay, man, that's a cool foil art. For those who don't know, I'm trying to open up a pack in every in-person video just so we can find the black Kai SCR. So yeah, so far we don't have it, ironically. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you want, go ahead and subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you in the next one.